All right, you are live.
Welcome back, everyone, to Senate Education. We're looking at H 874, which passed the House only yesterday. Given our time constraints, I wanted to go through this so we can look at it, even though it's not been combined by the editors. We're looking first at H 874, the first 17 pages. If you would take us through it, please.
Great, Beth St. James Office of Legislative Counsel. Thank you for setting that up. So I'm just, on my screen, I have both documents side by side. And so I'm going to do my best to walk through the section as introduced and pivot to the amendment, the House Appropriations Committee's amendment.
We have three amendments.
Yes, that last one is just one real instance of amendment.
Okay,
So,
great, okay.
But I'll do my best to weave it in, but if I miss something and you're confused, please stop me.
Please.
So, section 1 of this bill is, an amendment to section 945 in Title 16, which is currently titled the Adult Diploma Program, General Education Development Program, statute. It is part of the Flexible Pathways chapter. This amendment, section 1, does a couple things. So there's two parts to this program. Subsection A is the adult diploma program, where a participant in the program would get a high school diploma. And subsection B is a GED program. So those are two separate programs falling under the umbrella of what is now titled Adult Education and Secondary Credential Program. So the first thing this section does is it changes in subsection A, the eligibility age threshold. It takes it from 20 down to 16. It adds some clarifying language that someone is only eligible for the adult diploma program, and the same language is added to the GED section if they have not received a high school diploma already, they are not currently enrolled in a public approved independent school, higher education, or a home study program. And then a similar amendment is made in subsection B. On page 3.
Can I ask?
Yeah, please.
For clarification,
Yeah.
so I'm a little just puzzled. A bill as introduced takes us all the way back to January. Is that really?
Yes, I'll explain. So H 874 was a committee bill. It went after it was introduced by House Education. It went to a couple different committees, and the House Appropriations Committee made some amendments.
Right, I get that.
The House adopted all of those amendments. And the clerk's office has not done what they need to do to get everything to the editors
Yeah,
and combine everything.
My question is, since it was introduced, there's been no edits?
It was a
It's
committee
a
bill.
committee bill.
Okay. So
So
it
it
came out
wasn't-
in form,
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Can you just go back into any Vermont? So this is lowering the age.
Yes,
Who can,
participate in this program.
okay,
And so I'll just spare you all. What the next section does is it repeals the high school completion program, which is also a part of the Flexible Pathways program. And is for folks who are, who have completed at least 10th grade and are not enrolled, don't have a high school diploma, are not in college, are not in a home study program. So section 2 of the bill on page 3 repeals that program.
Okay, that's not you. Guys,
Yeah, please.
sorry. I just feel like we need a ton of backfill right now. Because I was on a committee over the summer and fall about high school completion. And so I am like very confused right now.
what did can you just say something?
Trying to find where this, so it was the adult ed, and it had a very long name. Adult ed, adult education and literacy access study. Student Access Study Committee.
Mhm.
Well, we have these nonprofits that do adult ed. And so was grappling with how to move forward with all of that, and so, okay, but I don't think
These are their suggestions.
our committee suggestions.
No, these suggestions reflect, I believe, suggestions from the adult ed providers.
Okay. Does the AOE's, what the AOE wants to do, was that?
I don't think I can speak to that particular. I can walk you through the bill,
I know.
but I can't, I am not your gal for the genesis of these changes, right? What am I gonna say? Those are policy decisions.
Okay,
I can tell you that I believe that they took testimony from the adult ed program community. In support of these changes. Whether there were other changes that were suggested in that study committee that are not represented in here. Why that may be, I can't speak to. But I can
Maybe just give us just a high level overview of it. We'll have Erin in when she can get back, or maybe she'll end up zooming in.
So, high school completion, I'll just read you.
Are you gonna tell us about the ages in the original program? Okay, thank you. I'm not sure.
Boy, your skit idea is so nice. So I'm just gonna read you from the high school completion statute. So there is created a high school completion program where in the flexible pathways chapter or subsection. To be a potential component of a flexible pathway for any Vermont student who is at least 16 years of age, 16, who has not received a high school diploma and who may or may not be enrolled in an approved independent school. I believe the testimony that House Education heard was that the adult ed providers are also providing a lot of, if not all of the services for the high school completion program. And so what sections 1 and 2 of H 874 do, if you combine them, is it gets rid of the high school completion program and it lowers the age of eligibility for the adult education and secondary credential program. So that theoretically, someone who was eligible for the high school completion program is now eligible to participate in the adult diploma program. Because we've taken the age of eligibility from 20 down to 16. 16 is also kind of a magic number because it is the end of the compulsory attendance age groups. So once you hit 16, if you are not in school, you are not truant. So
On your birthday. 16, that's, yeah.
16 or
16.
12?
16.
So that's what sections 1 and 2 are doing.
Correct.
There's also some language on page 3, part of section 1, that is being added. And this is something I am not going to be able to explain this. This is some insider baseball. I would encourage you, if you have questions about subsection D, to take testimony on this.
Yeah.
But there is a diagnostic portion of the adult diploma program. And I think there was testimony that there is a concern that diagnostic portion is being used to exclude individuals from the program, like they're not scoring high enough in order to get into the program or stay in the program. And so subsection D is just saying the diagnostic portion of this program can be used as a tool to evaluate educational needs or skills gained, but it cannot be used to exclude someone or to condition payment to the local providers who are providing these services. Do you want me to move on?
Please, just give us the whole walkthrough and then we can always.
Okay. So there was a small amendment the House Appropriations made to section 1. And that would be, if you go all the way up to page 2, line 8. their amendment removes the language at the very end of page 8, starting with which shall be an assessment process. So that language in the bill that you will get will be struck through. Section 3 is an amendment to section 4011 and title 16, education payments. So currently, so what you see in the bill as introduced are essentially conforming amendments. We changed the title of the adult education secondary credential program. We are reflecting that in subsection F at the very bottom of page 3. But there was a big substantive amendment made by House Appropriations. And so after, on page 4, at the very end of line 3, after average of the previous 2 years.
Yeah.
But before the period, the following language will be inserted, and it's the second instance of amendment in the HAC amendment. 40% of the payment required under this subsection, which is the payment for students in the adult education and secondary credential program, shall be from state funds appropriated from the ed fund, and 60% shall be from the general fund. So currently, adult ed is funded solely through the general fund. And high school completion program is funded through the ed fund. There's a repeal of the high school completion program. We are adding some eligibility room to the adult ed program. And so the change that was made by the House is that now the adult education program will be funded 40-60 ed fund, general fund. There is no appropriation in this bill. There is an appropriation in the budget that reflects that. Page 4,
Dual enrollment?
yes, dual enrollment. This is, if you go to page 5, it's more than a conforming amendment. So eligibility for dual enrollment, public school, tuition, home study. Current law is page 5, line 1, also assigned to a public school through the high school completion program, but we just repealed the high school completion program. So page 5 changes that to a student in the adult diploma program under subsection 945A.
Okay. Section 5.
Section 5, community schools. In 2021, the legislature enacted a bill, Act 67, that created community schools is a, we don't have enough time to fully dig into it here, but community schools is kind of there's a federal concept of what a community school is. And in 2021, using some COVID money, the legislature created a community schools grant program that would run for 3 years. It's all in session law.
Yeah.
So what section 5 does is it removes references to those 3 years. So you can see on page 5 on line 20.
Mhm.
It just says the secretary shall provide the funding on or before September 1, period. And then there's some other conforming amendments removing the same year references, and anywhere it said like the first year or the second year, it would be the initial year or subsequent years would be the change. And those changes now allow for the community schools program to continue to be funded.
Okay.
And section 6 is
So
that.
we had done it as a pilot, and now they're saying they are instituting community schools as a full-time.
They don't take it, this bill doesn't take it out of session law, which I know for legal purposes doesn't make a bit of difference. It doesn't say the community schools program shall be funded in perpetuity. It just leaves the door open to funding.
Okay.
It doesn't limit it to just 3 years. So if there is an appropriation, and this bill carries an appropriation.
Okay, they can continue.
They
that
can
project.
continue that grant project. If there is no appropriation, it's just an unfunded grant.
Yep.
the community schools, the Act 67 still has all of the scaffolding and structures for a school to rely on in order to be considered a community school, and they can still use that. They just wouldn't necessarily get any funding for it. So section 6 contains the appropriation for the community schools program. It also contains some legislative intent. It is the intent of the General Assembly.
Page,
10, section 6.
and just so I know, this is what they've done. I mean, I've heard it sort of in the air out there that the House has attached usually we pull appropriations out, throw them to the budget, but money has traveled with a lot of their bills. Okay,
I can't speak to a lot. I can only speak to
Yeah.
the bills I've drafted.
Yeah.
And then you saw an appropriation in the school construction
that's
bill,
right, yeah,
and in this bill,
okay,
and in the BOCES.
okay. And can you tell me, do you remember, St. James, last year, if we were receiving bills without money in them in some way? No, I think we. it was
I don't remember.
Yeah, okay, all right, go ahead.
So I'll just leave, in the interest of time, I'll just leave you all to the intent to go back over the intent section, or we can go back over it, but, basically, it's, intent around, expanding learning opportunities, and some language to kind of, give the intent of funding the community schools program
And they put $1.9 million.
as introduced. If
Okay.
you go over to the third instance of amendment,
Yeah,
it's taken down to 1 million.
okay.
Section 7. There's kind of two things happening here. One, this is the section 7, I'm on page 11, line 7, Flexible Pathways Initiative. This is the kind of main language for the Flexible Pathways Initiative. There are there are some conforming amendments on page 13, because we've gotten rid of the high school completion program. And we've renamed the adult education and secondary credential program on line 8 through 11. But this bill also is the section I was talking about yesterday. This section is the section I was talking about yesterday that goes with section 8, the VSAC section that we walked through yesterday. So part of this statute, part of the Flexible Pathways Initiative requires, and I'm gonna ask you to look back up to page 11, line 17.
Senator Gill, go ahead.
Does the Flexible Pathways Initiative not already exist?
Oh, yes,
So-
it
so-
exists.
Okay, why is it saying there is created within the agency of flexible pathways?
That's all current law.
Thank you.
If you go to line 17 on page 11, the secretary shall develop, publish, and regularly update guidance in the form of technical assistance, sharing of best practices and model documents, legal interpretations, and other support designed to assist school districts. Now, there's a whole list of things. If you go to page 12, line 4, that guidance has to be designed to assist school districts to work with every student in grades 7 through 12 in an ongoing personalized learning planning process that, and if you skip to line 11, this is the new language, identifies career and post-secondary planning options using resources provided pursuant to subdivision 4 of this subsection B. So let's go to 4.
Okay.
Which is on page 13, line 13. Remember, AOE is developing guidance that will assist school districts to provide students beginning not later than grade 7 with career development post-secondary planning resources. Line 17 is the new language. These resources provided pursuant to the subdivision have to include information regarding the admissions process and requirements necessary to proceed with any and all military-related opportunities.
Please, Senator Gill, that's helpful.
Actually, Senator.
Oh, sorry.
Just maybe a question, maybe a comment about the language here. I'm looking at line 19 and with any and all military related opportunities. I'm wondering if instead of any and all, it should be with relevant military related opportunities. And I'm thinking of a kid if, they want to become a nuclear scientist, what should they need to be hearing about opportunities regarding becoming an X-ray tech in the Navy or a pilot in the Air Force. But yeah, I think it could make sense if they hear about opportunities to work on a nuclear sub and get those details, but any and all related military opportunities just seems like a whole lot of information that they're required to put on a student, much of which might not be relevant to what their aspirations are. So yeah, I guess that's just a comment.
I've noted it. Strikes me as a policy decision, but if you're wrong.
We're all on the same page. Page 14, section 8, we walked through yesterday. This dovetails with the section we just.
Sorry, I didn't get to ask that question. If we're gonna do military things, why aren't we also including, for example, like AmeriCorps, which is also a government service that also provides like post-secondary opportunities?
Policy, the language before that, the new language was, so the current law already requires them to offer information, that would ensure students take full advantage of opportunities available within flexible pathways to achieve their career and post-secondary education and training goals. So, policy decision.
Okay.
This was that language, in section 8 was part of a standalone bill that was incorporated into this.
Right, oh yeah, we did get to that.
Section 8, planning resources. This goes with section 7 that we just talked about. It requires VSAC to also include all military related options in any post-secondary planning or financial aid planning resources it produces. Section 9 is some intent language saying that it's the intent of the General Assembly to continue to review flexible pathways to make sure it's working. Section 10, let's go. Sorry, I missed an amendment. If you go back up to the community schools report. The House Appropriations Committee also added a new section to be section 5A, so to come after the community school section and before the appropriation. It requires AOE to report back certain information about the community schools program. And that information it's on page 2, line 7, it's the 5th instance of amendment. Does the community school structure support schools in more efficient implementation of the education quality standards? And does the community school structure improve access to and efficiency in the provision of mental health services, social support services, and health services? There's already a report due to the legislature at the end of this year, and so this language would require this information to be added to that report. Okay, so we're gonna jump to page 10, or section 10, line page 14. Career settlement behaviors of post-secondary graduates. This should look familiar to you. You have actually, do you have a companion bill? This was an agency request, and I can't remember if we walked through this. Okay. So on or before July 1, 2025, AOE, Commerce and Community Development and Labor, in consultation with Vermont's public and private post-secondary education institutions, shall issue a written report to you all on the post-graduation career and settlement behaviors of students attending Vermont colleges and universities.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And that at a minimum, the report has to include an analysis of and discussion of why Vermont is last in the country and percentage of college students who stay in the same state in which the school they graduated from is located. Information on the types of degrees most commonly attained at Vermont-based post-secondary schools. A discussion of the obstacles preventing graduates from staying in Vermont, including whether housing options factor in. Comprehensive plan to increase the percentage of Vermont graduates who plan to live and work in Vermont for at least 5 years after graduation. And that plan needs to include the following initiatives: better career college pipelines between higher ed and employers, expanding career counseling, and career development services on campuses focused on Vermont industries and companies, increase campus community ties through service, cultural exchanges, and other community initiatives, and incentives, including preferential or streamlined pathways to licensure for graduates. And then A, we will provide the support for this report. The sixth instance of amendment on page 2, line 13, adds some new requirements to this reporting requirement related to Flexible Pathways Initiative. It requires the report to include, and this is where that standalone amendment comes into play. It requires schools to include, broken down by significant demographic, the following information. The information on participation rates by Flexible Pathways Initiative program type. So instead of just subdivision 1 being broken down by significant demographic group, Rep. Branning's amendment makes all of these a requirement to be broken down by significant demographic group. Student performance measured by completion rates by high school of origin, dual enrollment and early college coursework, post-secondary enrollment rates for students participating in dual enrollment in early college as compared to non-participating students, post-secondary retention rates for a period of at least 1 academic year, and persistence rates for students participating in dual enrollment in early college as compared to non-participating students, and post-high school continuation into the workforce for students participating in dual enrollment in early college as compared to non-participating.
Yeah, please.
Can we find out, this is a question
Yeah.
for our committee, how many reports the AOE is currently working on, and also like what kind of capacity they have to do all this reporting? I just seem to have a lot.
Is that,
Morgan, did you hear that?
Sorry, I did not hear that last part.
Would you have Secretary Boucher in next week to talk about the reports that still might be outstanding, updating us on their capacity to do other reports? Thank you.
God, absolutely.
report?
Yeah, but we should hear, I think, what their situation is over there right now.
On their webpage are completed reports, but like how
Well, I
many?
mean, on our website, reports are due to the committee.
Not sure.
Yes, you can find that information. It's not always accurate, and it is hard to kind of compare what you have versus what you don't.
And the reports may not just be coming from our committee either, like they could be coming from.
Yeah.
Section 11 is the last substantive section, well, there's one more. Page 16, section 11. We're adding a section to Title 16 in the supervisor union chapter regarding the uniform chart of accounts. This language is taken right out of session law. So currently, if you skip to section 12, page 17, starting in 2014, Maxim Resolves number 179, you can see it was the budget that year. There was a requirement that all supervisory unions use the uniform chart of accounts to record and report all school finance data. That requirement has not changed, but it lives in session law, and not even just session law, it lives buried in a budget, a couple different budgets. So all this section does is take that language out of session law, plunks it into the green books so everyone can find it easily, and then we repeal the session law so we're not duplicating efforts. And then the effective date is July 1.
Rep Radio will come in next week, give us some more information. This is the final bill from the House, correct? PCBs, construction, BOCES, miscellaneous ed.
Yes.
Okay. This seems to me to be the biggest lift, frankly, of them. And I'm a little surprised. I thought the others would be bigger, if this is going to be bigger, that things that will attach to it. Yes, Senator Blair,
And we're gonna add something to this too, right?
multiple things probably. Yeah, and a couple things to the others. I think we should send our schools. We had language in our miscellaneous ed bill that I don't wanna have disappear. I don't think they would take it out, but, the 500,000 versus the 2 million,
The public bids.
yeah, the public bids, we might just put that as school construction bill also. Okay. Anything immediately pressing on these? Yeah. So
I know, I just feel like I have to read this over the weekend because it seems really
and I think
complicated.
Rep Brady will be, I thought we'd wait until Rep Brady and next week.
Yeah.
And we'll have the edited version, so everything will be in
Yes.
one, but this gives everybody an idea and it helps me recognize. There's a lot more in there than I thought they put in there. Which is exciting. St. James, have a safe drive.
Thank you.